The forest was dense, old, and oddly silent. Thick pines clawed at the sky like ancient sentinels, their trunks veined with rot and darkness. The deeper one went into those woods, the less sound seemed to exist. Birds fell quiet. Wind stilled. Even footsteps felt muffled, like the ground was swallowing noise whole. There was a legend, passed down in fearful whispers through nearby towns, a cabin deep in the woods that devoured people. Those who ventured too close were never seen again. Their belongings sometimes returned, twisted, bloodied, reeking of mildew and something worse, but never their bodies. Locals called it the vanishing place. But curiosity is a cruel seductress. 6 friends, Emily, her boyfriend Tyler, his younger brother Ben, their friend Jessica, Mark, and Sarah, were in their 20s, bold with youth and blind to warnings. They'd heard the stories while drinking at a local bar during a weekend hiking trip near the town of Dunmore. A grizzled man with a glass eye told them about the cabin, warned them not to go near the old Havers Trail. They laughed it off. "I bet it's just some junky old shack," Mark had said. "Probably full of raccoons and spiders." Now they were walking directly into the heart of it. By late afternoon, the sun had begun its descent behind the trees, casting long, skeletal shadows across the dirt trail. The group trudged forward, led by Tyler and Emily, who followed a nearly invisible path they'd found on an old map. There were no signs, no markers. Just flattened leaves and the occasional twisted branch, like something large had moved through and pushed the forest aside. Ben kept pausing to look behind them. "I don't like this," he muttered. "It's too quiet. Feels off." Jessica, a skeptic and proud of it, scoffed. "It's a forest, Ben. It's not supposed to sound like a mall." "No," Sarah said, shivering. "He's right. It's too quiet. It's like the trees are listening." And then they saw it. Half hidden among the trees, just beyond a rise in the land, stood the cabin. It looked ancient, a structure from another time. Weather-worn logs, a roof sagging under years of moss and decay. Its door hung slightly ajar, like a mouth inviting them inside. The windows were black and reflective, no sign of life, or light. No birds. No bugs. No scent of pine. Just stillness. Emily's phone buzzed, but when she looked down, the screen was glitching. Pixels twitched, shifted. The battery, which had been at 74%, drained before her eyes. Then died. "My phone just shut off," she said. "Anyone else?" One by one, they checked their devices. All dead. "That's not normal," Mark said, voice lower now. "We were all charged up." "Maybe electromagnetic interference," Jessica offered, though she didn't sound convinced. Ben took a step closer to the cabin. "Guys, look at the footprints." They turned. There were tracks in the mud, many of them. Some old, faded with time. Others fresh. Human shoes. Bare feet. One small child-sized set that abruptly stopped right in front of the cabin door. No exit prints. Where the hell did they go? Mark asked. The group was silent. Sarah whimpered. "I want to go back." Emily looked at Tyler. He was staring hard at the cabin, something unreadable on his face. "We came this far," he said, voice strangely hollow. "Let's at least look inside." "No," Ben said quickly. "Tyler, this place isn't right." But Tyler had already stepped forward, pushing open the door with a long, groaning creak that echoed through the woods. The air that spilled out was wrong. Cold, musty, thick with rot and a sharp, metallic tang, like rusted iron and old meat. The smell seemed to claw into their noses and settle there. Inside, it was dark but visible. A fireplace stood unused. The floorboards were cracked and splintered. Old furniture, half collapsed, leaned against the walls. Dust hung thick in the air. And there were scratches on the inside of the door. Long, ragged gouges. Desperate. Human. Emily froze. Those looked like fingernails. Jessica stepped in slowly, flashlight raised. There's something on the floor. It was a Polaroid photograph. Faded. Curled at the edges. A family stood outside the cabin, a man, woman, and small girl. They were smiling, but something was wrong with their eyes. Dark circles around them. Sunken. Staring too intensely at the camera. Is this some kind of prank? Jessica asked. Then the door slammed shut behind them with a thunderous bang. Outside, Ben and Sarah screamed. Inside, it was pitch black. Emily fumbled in the dark, trying to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Tyler helped. Nothing. It was like the door was now part of the wall. Then came the scratching. Low at first. From inside the walls. Then louder. Closer. All around them. Something was moving within the cabin, behind the wooden walls. Jessica shrieked as a hand shot through a hole in the paneling and grabbed her leg. It was gray, rotted, its fingers wrapped tight with unnatural strength. Tyler kicked the wall, and it released her. They backed into a corner, breathing fast, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then came the whispers. Dozens of voices. Male. Female. Children. All speaking at once. Help me, it took my face. We shouldn't have come, the cabin is hungry. It sees you now. Outside, Ben and Sarah tried to break in, but the windows reflected only forest. No sign of their friends. No light. Just their own faces, pale and horrified. Sarah turned around and froze. The trees behind them had shifted. There was no path back. The forest had closed in. And the cabin behind them looked different now. Bigger. Breathing. Alive. Inside the cabin, the darkness had taken shape. Emily clung to Tyler, her heart hammering like a war drum in her chest. Jessica was sobbing quietly in the corner, cradling her leg where the gray hand had clawed her skin. Blood seeped through her jeans, but it was the coldness she kept whispering about that chilled them all. It touched me, she kept saying. It felt like ice, no, worse. Like nothing. Like it wasn't even alive. The whispers hadn't stopped. They came in waves, sometimes distant and echoing, other times right beside their ears, saying things only the listener could hear. Tyler turned on his flashlight. The beam flickered like it was struggling to breathe. He moved it across the room, and the light passed over faces in the walls. Or what looked like faces. Warped impressions of screaming mouths, empty eye sockets, distorted expressions caught mid-scream, pressed against the old wood as if the cabin itself had devoured people and remembered them. Oh my God, Emily breathed. What the hell is this place? Jessica whispered. They tried the door again. Nothing. They slammed against it, kicked it, screamed, but the cabin didn't respond. It had swallowed them whole. Outside, Ben and Sarah were panicking. I'm going to call for help, Sarah said, pulling out her phone. Maybe if we walk back down the hill we'll get signal. But when she turned, her breath caught in her throat. There was no hill anymore. The trail was gone. Trees surrounded them like prison bars, tall, identical, packed unnaturally close. The entire landscape had shifted. Even the air felt heavier, thicker, like it had become aware of them. Ben's voice cracked. We didn't go anywhere. That hill was right behind us. How is this possible? I don't know, Sarah said, voice trembling, but we need to get them out. Now. She tried a window, glass cold as ice. But she couldn't see anything inside anymore. Just the reflection of the forest. No Tyler. No Emily. Just trees. Trees. And something moving behind her. Ben gasped. Did you hear that? Something knocked inside the cabin. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, like a warning. Or a signal. Knock. 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 From within the wood itself. Then something answered from the trees. A distant knock in return. And then again from the cabin, louder. Knock. 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 Inside, the group heard it too. Jessica screamed. It's coming back. It's coming back. But it wasn't just coming back. It was already inside. From beneath the floorboards, from inside the walls, something was shifting. Crawling. Slithering. Emily pointed toward the hallway they hadn't yet explored. We need to move. Staying in this room is suicide. But where do we go? Jessica snapped. It's everywhere. We saw it, it grabbed me. We either sit and wait to die, Tyler growled, or we try to find a way out. There's got to be something. Reluctantly, Jessica nodded. They moved into the hallway. The wooden floor creaked. Beneath them like it was alive, groaning at every step. The walls seemed to pulse in the flashlight beam. Paintings hung askew, distorted portraits of people no one recognized, each face blurred or scratched out. One door at the end of the hall was cracked open. Behind it was faint breathing. Wet, raspy, inhuman breathing. They backed away. Another door, this one closed, with burned handprints scorched into the wood. And another door with a mirror nailed to it. The mirror reflected not the hallway, but another room entirely. A dimly lit kitchen. Emily leaned in. In the mirror, she saw herself, alone, standing in the cabin's kitchen, but her reflection's mouth moved independently. It whispered. Don't turn around. Emily spun. Nothing behind her. She looked back at the mirror. Her reflection was now bleeding from the eyes. Jessica gasped. It's showing us things that haven't happened yet. Or things that already had. Outside, Ben had circled the cabin twice and found something disturbing. There was no back to the cabin. No sides. Just one face, the front. Every time he walked around it, he came back to the same wall, the same door, the same shattered window. Sarah stood beside the front steps, holding her head. I heard my mom's voice. She's dead. But I heard her, Ben. She told me to come inside. She said, it's warm in here, baby. I've missed you. Don't listen to it, Ben said. Whatever this place is, it's feeding on us. The door creaked slightly. Open again. Sarah stepped forward. Sarah, no. But she didn't stop. She stepped inside. The door slammed shut. Ben was alone. Inside, Tyler, Emily, and Jessica reached a set of stairs that spiraled downward into a cellar, lit by a single flickering bulb. From below came laughter, a child's laughter, high-pitched and mocking. Emily froze. That sounds like the little girl from the photo. Jessica covered her ears. It's not a child. It's something pretending to be one. As they descended, they saw hundreds of small handprints on the walls, black with soot or blood. Some of them moved when no one was looking. The bulb above them blew out. Pitch black. Then the cellar door slammed shut. Ben, outside, screamed and beat his fists on the wall of the cabin. He no longer cared what was real or not. He just wanted his friends back. But the forest behind him was changing. The trees leaned in. Their trunks pulsing. Their bark splitting open like mouths. Whispers echoed around him. He turned. And saw dozens of people standing between the trees. Unmoving. Watching. Their faces were familiar. The missing. Rotting. Silent. In the pitch-dark basement, Emily reached for her flashlight. But her hand brushed against something wet. She screamed, and the laughter started again. Only now it was right behind them. Emily's scream echoed through the pitch-black basement like a siren in the void. Her trembling fingers scrambled for the flashlight. She flicked it on, and the beam revealed the damp cement floor, streaked with muddy footprints and long black smears, like something had been dragged. Behind her, Tyler hissed, "Don't move." She froze. The light trembled as she turned. Standing only inches away from Jessica was a figure. It looked like a child, small, barefoot, with tangled hair and a dirty white dress, but its face was all wrong. Its mouth stretched far too wide, cheeks split open into a grin that reached its ears, and its eyes were pure black. Not reflective. Just voids. Jessica whimpered, paralyzed in place. The thing opened its mouth and emitted a sound that wasn't a scream. It was the sound of bones grinding through meat, of metal scraping against teeth, of something chewing itself from the inside out. Then, it spoke. "She's already inside you." Jessica collapsed. Her body convulsed violently, her back arching as if strings were being pulled from within. Her eyes rolled up, and a black ooze trickled from her nose. Tyler lunged, dragging her away. The child thing tilted its head, watching curiously. Emily raised the flashlight again, only now the figure was gone. Just vanished. They were alone in the cellar. Except they weren't. Upstairs, Sarah stumbled through the hallway in a daze. The moment she stepped inside, the air changed, it pressed against her skin like static, and everything smelled like rot and rusted iron. The cabin had grown. Where once was a narrow hall, now extended a corridor of crooked doors and warped picture frames. The walls breathed. The floors cracked and whispered. She passed a mirror, and in it, she saw her reflection hanging from the ceiling, eyes gouged out, still swinging gently. She screamed and backed away. From one of the nearby rooms, she heard her mother's voice again. "Come in, baby. You're cold. You look so tired." Sarah clutched her head. "No. You're not real. You're dead. I watched you die. You left me to die," the voice hissed now, changing, twisting. "You didn't come home. You were too busy. And I burned alone." Sarah turned and ran. But the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. And then she saw him. Ben. Standing at the other end, arms wide. "Sarah. You came back." She cried with relief and rushed toward him. But as she got closer, her smile faded. Something was wrong. His legs weren't touching the ground. His head tilted too far to the side, like his neck was broken. And his mouth was dripping blood. It wasn't Ben. Whatever it was wearing him. In the cellar, Jessica slowly came to, coughing and shaking. Tyler held her close. "You're okay. We're okay." "No, we're not," she whispered. "She's in here with me." Emily paced the floor, light flickering again. "There's got to be another way out. A tunnel, a hatch, something." And then the light caught something on the far wall. A door. But not like the others. This one was stitched shut. Flesh-colored, like someone had sewn it closed with black wire. Above it, written in a smeared brownish red, was a message. "Do not open. It comes through here." Tyler stared at it. "Whatever's in there." Jessica looked up. "It wants out." The door pulsed. It breathed. And then it whispered. "Help me, it's so dark in here." Emily backed away. "No. Hell no." The whisper became a scream. "Let me out. Please, it's hungry." Suddenly, the stitches began to pull apart one by one, snapping with wet, ripping sounds. They ran. Back in the hallways above, Sarah dodged into a room and slammed the door shut behind her. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, adrenaline pumping. She turned. It was a nursery. Dusty wooden crib. Broken rocking chair. And on the wall, a painting of the little girl from the photo in the living room. Only now, her face was missing. Literally carved away. The crib creaked. Sarah slowly stepped forward and peeked inside. There was no baby. Just bones. Tiny, curled bones in stained baby clothes, and scrawled on the inside of the crib in dried blood. She never left. The air dropped 10 degrees. Behind her, the rocking chair began to move on its own. Creak, creak, creak. Sarah didn't wait. She ran. As she threw open the door to flee, she collided with Tyler. "Thank God," she cried. "Where's Emily? Where's Jess?" From the darkness, a second Tyler stepped forward. Eyes black. Smile wrong. There were two Tylers. The real one shouted, "That's not me. Run!" Sarah screamed as the false Tyler lunged. In the cellar, Emily and Jessica had reached the stairway again, only to find it gone. Replaced with a gaping hole in the ceiling, out of reach, filled with swarming shadows that pulsed and shifted like a nest of flies. Jessica collapsed again. "We're trapped. It won't let us go." Emily was about to respond when she heard it. Footsteps. But upside down. From above them, along the ceiling, like something was crawling, dragging itself with hooks. Then the whisper returned. "This place eats people. One by one. It remembers every scream. Every tear." Emily gripped Jessica's hand tight. And from the far side of the cellar, the stitched door was now open. Beyond it was nothing. Endless black. And something coming through. Emily yanked Jessica behind a rusted furnace as the stitched door in the cellar groaned fully open. The darkness beyond it wasn't just an absence of light, it was a living thing. It pulsed. It bled. And something moved inside it. Not walking. Not crawling. Unfolding. Long, wet limbs slithered out of the void like a spider being birthed. Then came the fingers, too many fingers, tapping against the floor like claws. It was sniffing, listening. The room reeked of rotting meat and scorched hair. Emily's heart pounded as she held her breath. Jessica, pale and nearly catatonic, whispered, "It knows our names now. It told me." In the dark. Emily covered her mouth. The thing was closer now, just on the other side of the furnace. Then came the voice. "Emily." It spoke in her father's voice. He had died 3 years ago. The sound of him saying her name made her eyes fill with tears. "Help me, sweetheart. I'm cold. Please." Emily closed her eyes, refusing to move. But then. "Jessica." The voice changed. Tyler's voice. "I'm here. I found the way out." Jessica moved. Emily tried to hold her back, but Jessica slipped from her grip and stepped into the open. Tyler. What came into the flashlight beam wasn't Tyler. Its skin was stretched too tight over its bones, like a wax figure melting. Its eyes were hollow and leaking blood. It was wearing Tyler's face, but it wasn't him. Jessica let out a strangled sob. The creature smiled. And then it screamed. Not just with a mouth, with every pore, every crack in its form, it howled with the agony of 1,000 stolen voices. Emily pulled Jessica and ran. Sarah had lost the real Tyler. She didn't know how long she'd been wandering the twisted, shifting halls of the cabin. Each door led to somewhere new, sometimes a bathroom filled with bones, sometimes a hallway with her own childhood photos on the walls, their faces clawed out. And sometimes, just mirrors. Endless mirrors. Each one showing her a little more broken. In one, she saw herself crying. In another, she was smiling with her throat slit wide open. In the next, she stood still, but her reflection moved. It stared at her with black eyes, blood leaking from the corners of its mouth. And it whispered. "You don't belong here anymore." She smashed the glass and ran. Tyler had been dragged. Whatever had grabbed him in the dark had a grip like iron and skin like wet leather. It had whispered his mother's lullaby in a cracked voice while it hauled him down a hole in the floor he hadn't even seen. Now, he was in a crawlspace under the cabin. The space was tight, barely enough room to move, but he wasn't alone. Carved into the earth were faces. Human faces. Mouths open in silent screams, skin stretched into the walls like someone had pressed people into the dirt and left them there. Their eyes still blinked. Their lips still moved. He couldn't scream. He couldn't look. Then one of them whispered, "It wore me." 2. Another, "It makes you watch, as it kills with your face." Tyler crawled faster. Emily and Jessica finally made it out of the basement, but the cabin had changed. It no longer resembled the rundown shack they'd first entered. Now it looked ancient. Rotten beams bowed under their weight. Walls throbbed like organs. Doors shifted when you looked away. It smelled like an open grave. As they limped through a living room filled with crucifixes nailed upside down, they heard a voice. "Emily." It was Sarah. She appeared in the hall, soaked in sweat and tears, flashlight flickering. They ran to each other and embraced, all three trembling. "Tyler?" Emily asked. Sarah shook her head. "I lost him. There's something here, it looks like us." Jessica muttered, "It wore my brother's face. Said it needed skin." They all looked at one another, silently realizing the same thing. They couldn't trust anyone. Even themselves. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Say something only the real Emily would know." Emily blinked, confused. "What?" "Just say it." Emily hesitated. Then whispered, "You got drunk the night Ben died and told me you wished it was you instead." Sarah lowered her flashlight, eyes wide. Emily added, "And I made you swear never to tell anyone." Jessica nodded slowly. "It wears them. But it doesn't remember. It can't." Then, a knock. From the ceiling. The three of them turned, frozen. Knock. 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 It moved. Down the wall. To the floor. Then footsteps. Someone, no, something, was walking toward the door. A voice called out from the other side, sweet and calm. "Emily. Let me in. It's Tyler. I found the car keys." Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't open it." The voice repeated, a little more impatient now. "Emily. Open the door. I'm right here." But now, the voice cracked. Glitched. "M-I-O-Y. I'm right here." Jessica backed away. "It can't get in unless we open it." Then something pounded against the door hard enough to rattle the hinges. And a new voice screamed from the other side. "Don't open it. I'm the real Tyler. It's inside me. Don't." The scream turned into a garbled static shriek. Then silence. The door creaked open slowly. But no one had touched it. From the darkness, Tyler stepped in. Dripping wet. Face blank. And smiling. He said softly, "There you are." The thing that looked like Tyler stood in the doorway, dripping water onto the warped wooden floor. His head tilted slightly, smile wide and glassy. The eyes, too shiny, too still, gleamed like polished buttons. Jessica backed into the corner. "That's not him." It's wearing him. Sarah's hand shook around the iron poker she'd grabbed from the fireplace. Emily stood frozen. The thing's gaze fixed on her. It said in Tyler's voice, I don't know what happened. I was in the woods, and then. It paused, blinked, too slowly, and blood trickled from one nostril. Please don't leave me here. Emily nearly stepped forward. Then the thing began twitching. Its head jerked to the side. The smile stayed intact as its body spasmed, unfolding slightly, like it didn't quite remember how to be human. He's in there, Sarah whispered. I heard him. It's using his body, maybe his soul. The Tyler thing's voice deepened, glitched. I stayed. I kept waiting. So cold in the dark. And then. Its face changed. Literally changed, like wax melting, features sliding off, rearranging. In seconds, it now wore Sarah's face. Sarah staggered back. No. No. The creature spoke again in Sarah's voice. You should have drowned, not him. You were supposed to stay under the ice. Jessica screamed. Emily grabbed her and ran. The cabin twisted as they moved. Doors they had used before were gone. New ones appeared, some made of meat, others of rot. The walls were breathing again. They passed a bedroom filled with cribs. Inside each, a bundle wrapped in old, moldy blankets. One began to move. A tiny hand poked out, with claws. Sarah slammed the door shut. Don't stop. It wants us to slow down. Emily shouted over the rising wind, we need to find the real Tyler. If he's still alive, we can save him. Jessica hesitated. What if he's already one of them? Then we'll burn them all. Sarah's eyes burned now. But we don't leave anyone behind. They descended back into the basement. The stitched door was open again, wider this time. Beyond it, the tunnel pulsed like a throat. Emily went first. The air inside was wet and hot, like they were inside something alive. The walls squelched as they brushed against them. Something dripped steadily from the ceiling. Then, in the distance, sobbing. A figure sat curled near the end of the tunnel. Tyler. He looked up, face filthy and cut. Eyes real. Human. It made me watch, he whispered. I saw you all die 100 times. Emily touched his face. We're here now. We're getting out. Tyler looked behind them, terror flooding his expression. No. No, it's coming. It never lets anyone leave. It feeds on escape. A long howl echoed through the tunnel, like a wolf choking on blood. The walls screamed with it, vibrating violently. Then a sound like wet feet slapping stone. Jessica turned, flashlight trembling in her hands. It's here. From the shadows emerged something wrong. It had no skin, just muscle and sinew, red and glistening. Its head was a mass of faces, Emily's, Sarah's, Tyler's, all merging and twitching, speaking in perfect unison. Stay. 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 Be part of me. It lunged. Emily swung the flashlight, shattering it across the creature's shoulder. Tyler grabbed Jessica and ran while Sarah lit a match, then tossed the entire bottle of lamp oil she'd taken from upstairs. Humph! The creature went up in flames, shrieking with 100 stolen mouths. They ran. The tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Walls covered in faces, trapped people, all whispering, moaning. Some were familiar, people from the missing posters. At the center stood a well. Its bricks were bleeding. Emily leaned over, and saw herself. Floating in the water. Staring upward. Smiling. Then it spoke. Jump, and I'll let the others go. One for many. The others begged her not to. Sarah, this place lies. Jessica, it wants your soul. Just like it took mine in the dream. Tyler, please. Don't give it what it wants. But Emily's reflection continued smiling. Blood floated in the water now. Her own voice echoed in her mind. I've been down here so long. The voices around the chamber rose, chanting. Some laughing. Others weeping. Emily stepped back. No, she said. You don't get to win. She looked at Tyler. We burn this place. They returned to the cabin's center. Sarah dragged in old chairs, mattresses, a box of books, all drenched in kerosene. Jessica found a lighter. The creatures' voices screamed from the walls. Don't. 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 Stay. Emily lit the fire. The cabin screamed. Literally, beams cracking like bones, floors buckling, blood pouring from the cracks in the walls. The windows showed impossible things now, children melting, birds with human faces, a sky of screaming mouths. They ran through the front door. For the first time, it opened. They burst into the night. The forest was silent. The moon full. Behind them, the cabin burned, writhing, convulsing, as if alive. As it collapsed, something crawled out of the flames, a charred, skeletal figure with Emily's face. It whispered. You'll never be done with me. And then it turned to ash. The four of them stood there, trembling. Breathing. Alive. But deep in the forest, they heard it again. A knock. Then a voice. Hello. Is someone there? I think I found a cabin. 2 weeks had passed since the fire. Emily hadn't spoken much. None of them had. The others had gone home to their families, clutching what little normalcy remained. Tyler stayed by Emily's side, both haunted by the thing that had worn his face, her face, all their fears. Sarah kept researching. Jessica stopped sleeping. The police had investigated the site. All they found was blackened timber, scorched dirt, and bones, dozens of bones. Human. Some ancient. Some, fresh. The town called it a tragedy. But they knew. The cabin wasn't destroyed. Not really. It began again with a voicemail. Jessica played it over and over. The voice was garbled, filled with static. But there was one unmistakable word. Stay. The next day, Emily woke up with dirt under her nails. Her shoes were muddy. She had no memory of leaving the house. Tyler found a splinter in his arm, deep, black wood, old and wet like it had been pulled from a shipwreck. Sarah called them that evening, her voice shaking. It's still here. I think it followed us. They met in person the next day. The air was cold. Sarah slammed down a pile of papers. Photocopies of ancient maps. Forest records. Folklore. There's no record of that cabin ever being built, she said. It's not in county records. It doesn't show up on satellite maps. I think it wasn't a place. I think it's a thing. Something that wears the idea of a place. Something that waits in the woods, hungry for people to find it. Jessica whispered, then why did it let us go? Sarah didn't answer. Emily already knew. It didn't let us go. It marked us. That night, Tyler disappeared. His apartment was torn apart. The door wasn't forced open, it was gone. The frame led to a black wall. The cops were baffled. Sarah checked the hallway camera footage. At 3:08 a.m., Tyler walked to his door. Opened it. Smiled. And stepped into what looked like a forest. The timestamp glitched. The frame flickered. In one blink, the hallway was gone, replaced by the cabin's front porch. Then, static. Emily and Jessica drove back to the ruins. The burned ground smelled like iron and wet bark. There was nothing left, except one thing. A single doorframe. Still standing. No wall. Just the door. Emily walked around it. From behind, nothing but forest. From the front, through the doorway, the cabin's interior. Unburned. Flickering lamplight. The old chair. The fireplace. The same damn rug. Jessica whispered, "Oh God, it's waiting." It never burned. It just moved. Or opened somewhere else. Emily stepped closer. A voice echoed from the doorway. "Emily." I stayed. "Please, help." Tyler. Alive. Or pretending. Jessica grabbed her. "No. You walk through that, you don't come back." Emily turned. Her voice was hollow. "If it has him, we end this. For real." She pulled a knife from her coat. Duct tape. A vial of her blood. Salt. Every trick Sarah found. Jessica nodded reluctantly. "We go together." They stepped through. Instant cold. And the smell. Like rot wrapped in honey. The cabin stood whole again. But something was wronger than before. The walls shifted constantly, rippling like breathing skin. Paintings wept. Shadows walked behind the glass of the windows. A fireplace crackled, but instead of wood, it burned hair. "Tyler?" Emily called. The cabin answered with silence, then a tap 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 from upstairs. They ascended. The upstairs hallway stretched far too long. Doors pulsed gently. Some moaned. One whispered Jessica's name in her mother's voice. They reached the final door. Emily opened it. Tyler hung in the air, literally suspended, wires of flesh and muscle connecting him to the ceiling, walls, floor. His eyes moved. He was still alive. He mouthed a single word, "Run." Behind them, the door slammed. Laughter bubbled from the walls. The floor beneath them vanished. They dropped into the heart of the cabin. A vast chamber beneath the earth, one they'd never seen before. It wasn't a room. It was an organ. A living thing. Flesh walls beat with rhythm. Pools of black blood bubbled. In the center stood Emily. But not her. An older version. Gray, ragged, smiling. Eyes like deep wells. The older Emily spoke. "You came back. Good. I stayed too long once. Now I serve. And soon, so will you." The walls pulsed with voices. Screaming, singing, chanting. Jessica hurled salt at the older Emily. It hissed. The double melted into a puddle of black bile. The cabin roared. Emily ran to Tyler's cocoon. Slashed at the cords. The whole chamber screamed. Tyler dropped. Unconscious. Breathing. Jessica dragged him. Emily turned, raised the knife. She didn't know what she was stabbing, just a mass of everything, writhing in the center of the chamber. Faces. Mouths. Claws. Each time she stabbed it, it bled memories. Her father's voice. Her childhood home. Tyler's laugh. It wanted her to forget who she was. To join. She screamed. "I'm not yours," and buried the blade deep. The cabin fractured. Walls exploded. Light filled the space. The world turned inside out. They woke on the forest floor. The doorframe was gone. So was the cabin. Tyler stirred beside them. Alive. Jessica wept. Emily sat up, bloodied, silent. I stabbed its heart, she whispered. But it said something. Jessica looked at her. Emily closed her eyes. It said, "One always stays." They walked back to town. No one spoke. But that night, Jessica had a dream. She was standing at the edge of the forest. The trees whispered. And behind her, Emily was gone. Jessica hadn't heard from Emily in 3 days. Not a call. Not a message. Not even a missed post on social media. After everything they had endured, that silence felt worse than death. Tyler was still recovering. Whatever that thing had done to him, it had drained more than his body, it had clawed at his soul. He stared off a lot. Sometimes at the walls. Sometimes at nothing. Sometimes, as if he saw the cabin again. Jessica didn't sleep anymore. Not since the dream started. Always the forest. Always the same whisper. One always stays. On the 4th night, Jessica found something outside her door. A bundle wrapped in bark. Smelling of rot and moss. She unwrapped it with trembling hands. Inside was a Polaroid photo, faded and damp. It showed Emily, standing on the cabin porch. Smiling. Behind her, the door was open. And something stood just beyond it. Watching. Waiting. Jessica turned it over. In Emily's handwriting. "I didn't escape. I just bought you time." Jessica collapsed to the floor, sobbing. She went to Sarah, desperate, furious. "We ended it. We burned it. We stabbed its heart. Why is it still here?" Sarah looked pale. Her eyes sunken. She hadn't left her apartment in a week. "I was wrong," she whispered. "It's not a creature. It's not even a place. It's a hunger. It lives through belief, memory, trauma. It spreads. Like mold. Like a parasite." She showed Jessica her laptop. There were hundreds of stories. Different towns. Different forests. Different people. All the same cabin. All the same ending. One always stays. It wasn't just their cabin. It was every cabin. A roving maw that devoured whoever found it. A shapeshifter. A dream feeder. A trap that could be anywhere. And now, it had Emily. Jessica returned to the forest. She had nothing left. She brought salt, the knife, her flashlight. The trees welcomed her like old friends. And after hours of wandering, she found it. Standing tall. Whole. As if it had never been touched. The cabin. Like it had always been there. Waiting for her. She stepped inside. It was colder than she remembered. Too clean. Too quiet. No blood. No bile. No movement. But she heard footsteps upstairs. She followed. Slowly. At the top of the stairs was Emily's voice. Singing. A lullaby from childhood. Jessica pushed open the door. Emily sat on the bed, staring out the window. Pale. Still. Smiling. But her eyes were wrong. Too black. Too deep. Like holes cut into her skull. Jessica stepped closer. "Emily." Emily blinked. "You came back." Jessica's throat tightened. "Of course I did." Emily stood. Her limbs moved too smoothly, like she was pulled by strings. "I told it you'd return. I told it you'd want to stay." Jessica backed up. "Emily, please. You don't get it." Emily's head twitched. "I'm not trapped. I belong. I see it now. I am it now." She stepped forward, her smile stretching unnaturally wide. You brought the cabin with you. It lives in you too. Every nightmare. Every scream. Every night you close your eyes, it opens another door. She leaned close. You're already inside. The room folded. The walls peeled back like skin. Jessica screamed. She was no longer in the bedroom, she was in the heart again. The fleshy, pulsing chamber beneath the cabin. But now, there were hundreds of people embedded in the walls. Some crying. Some whispering. Some smiling like dolls. She saw Sarah there. Tyler. And herself. A version of her, trapped in a loop. Repeating the walk into the cabin. Again. And again. A memory devoured endlessly. The thing in the center rose again. A shifting, stuttering shape of limbs and mouths. It wore Emily's face like a mask. You came back, it hissed. You always do. You always stay. Jessica held up the knife. Not this time. She charged it. Screaming. The blade sank in. Light exploded. She woke up in her own bed. Breathing hard. Heart racing. Was it a dream? Had she escaped again? The clock read 3:08 a.m. She heard creaking footsteps. Slow. Heavy. From inside the house. She reached for her phone. The screen flickered. Died. Then the whisper. From just outside her bedroom door. You stayed. The next morning, Jessica's house was empty. The door wide open. Her bed still warm. Only thing left behind. A single photograph. The cabin. Emily on the porch. And now Jessica, standing beside her. Both smiling. The door behind them wide open. Inside the darkness, something moved. Watching. Waiting. And in the forest, the cabin stood again. As if it had never left. Because it hadn't. Because it never does. Because one always stays. The End Drop of Blood Evergreen Tree.